how many grams of protein do you think we need per day? Now, you'll probably tell me, oh, we need 1 gram of protein per pound of muscle, or per pound of body weight, or maybe even per kilogram of lean mass, which is more of a reasonable number. But really, the answer to this question is actually 0. We need 0 grams of protein per day. We don't actually have to have any protein on a daily basis. And we know this because if you were to fast, meaning abstain from food, all caloric sources for 3 days or 7 days or 14 days, this would yield significant health benefits. Now, if protein was essential to your life on a daily basis, meaning you needed an amount of protein above 0 grams of protein per day, if that were true, you wouldn't be able to improve your health by eating 0 grams of protein. Now, I'm only making this argument to illustrate the point of how much we overestimate protein as far as a major dietary component. Now, protein is going to be important depending on what your goal is, and it's going to vary depending on your body composition, your age, your goals, things of this nature. But we have a protein problem, and the protein problem is the overestimation of protein in our diet. Now, overestimating your protein requires you to reach an excessively high number of protein. An illustration of that would be, let's say you had a woman and she was, let's say, 5'3" and she was 230 pounds. Now, if you told her, hey, you need to consume 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, then that woman would have to be eating a diet on a daily basis where she is eating 230 grams of protein per day. Now, you would have her eating a tremendous amount of food as a result of doing this, and this would cause her a variety of health complications to her liver, to her kidneys, to her gut, to her heart health, to her sleep quality, all different types of problems. Because now she is 230 pounds, but she is only, let's say, 45 or 50 kilograms of lean mass, then that means that an overwhelming amount of her body weight is actually body fat. So as far as calculating her protein requirement for the day, it would be quite ludicrous to actually include her body fat percentage in that calculation. Because one thing we don't want to do is use protein in order to sustain our fat mass, especially if we're trying to lose weight. Now let's dig in a little bit more into this hypothetical woman. Let's say this hypothetical woman, again, she's 5'3", she's 230 pounds. She has a weight loss goal where she wants to get to 140 pounds. Now, if we were using her goal weight to calculate her daily intake as far as calories are concerned, we would want to find out what is her basal metabolic rate at 140 pounds, right? Now, at 5'3", 140 pounds, that would bring us to a number of 1,300, meaning the bare minimum amount of calories that she would burn on a daily basis is 1,300 calories. So now let's say on a non-training day, it's not really particularly an active day, what we would do is we would add 20 to 25% to that number, right? So it would be the BMR plus 25%, let's say. So that would give us a total of around 1,600 calories, 1,600 and change. Now, if she was to try to reach a protein goal of 230 grams, she would need around 920 calories worth of protein in her diet. This is nearly 60% of her daily macros. Now, if you were to try to make a diet plan like this would look obscene if you were to track the vitamins and mineral balance, right? As well as the omega-3 and 6 ratios and whatnot. So pursuing a protein goal like that would create an inherently problematic diet, especially long term, because of the nutrient deficiencies that it would cause and the oxidative stress and inflammation that would follow from that. Protein is not meant to be an energy source. Protein actually breaks down into amino acids, which are the building blocks of new cells. Now, if protein is making up something like 60% or even 50% of your macros, that means that the majority of your intake is not even powering your body. So this puts you in an energy deficit, which is going to put a strain on your body. And your body will be forced to take a large amount of that protein and figure out other ways to use it. For example, turning it into glucose through gluconeogenesis. So even if your goal was to consume this amount of protein, your body doesn't need that amount of protein anyway, so your body would have to change it into something else in order to be able to use it. So this is a wasteful way to engage in nutrition. And that's number one up front. Now, protein becomes very acidic because protein breaks down into amino acids, and those amino acids are inherently acidic, and your body needs to maintain a slightly alkaline level, right? So what your body will do is it will deploy magnesium and calcium in order to neutralize the excess acid formation that happens as a result of high levels of protein consumption. Your kidneys are also going to have to work harder in order to filter out excess acid accumulation that is a result of this overaccumulation of protein from high protein consumption as well. This hard work, this deploying of high levels of calcium and magnesium in order to neutralize the acid, produces higher levels of oxidative stress and inflammation and gradually drives you into a magnesium and calcium deficit. When you run into a deficit of these minerals, you'll experience more calcium and magnesium being leached from your muscle tissue and your bone tissue, as well as other tissues in your body. Doing this long term will lead to all kinds of things: heart palpitations, high blood pressure, insulin resistance, muscular fatigue, a degradation in neurochemistry resulting in anxiety and depression, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, autoimmune disorders, all these kinds of things. For example, calcium is needed in order to facilitate nervous system function, in order for your muscles to produce muscular contractions. All of the musculature in your body needs calcium stored inside that tissue. In order for your bones to maintain their integrity, there needs to be a certain amount of calcium that's stored inside your bones. So calcium is a core component to maintain the structure of your lean mass. If that calcium is being used to do something other than maintain that structure and it is instead being used to neutralize acid, this is going to be a major problem for you. Eye twitches, heart palpitations, muscle cramps, spasms, muscle fatigue, weakness, muscle loss, right? Sarcopenia, all these kinds of things. And then the decrease of magnesium results in a deficit in vitamin D. So a lot of people experience vitamin D deficiencies, and then they go and they take vitamin D as a supplement, but magnesium is a currency that is used in the process of vitamin D synthesis. If you supplement with vitamin D, well, that requires magnesium. And if you're already at a deficit of magnesium, well, in order for your body to use that supplement, that magnesium will be used as a form of currency, thus driving down your magnesium reserves even more. This can lead you even further into insulin resistance, fatty liver disease, kidney disease, hypothyroidism, hormone imbalances like excess production of estrogen and a reduction of testosterone and progesterone in women, which can lead to debilitating menstrual cycles or a complete loss of menstrual cycles, or early premenopause, or just early menopause in general. All types of issues are a result that stems from this calcium and magnesium deficit that you drive yourself deeper into. Then there's water balance, the hydration of the body. Now, a little more than 3/4 of your body is made of water. Keeping your body hydrated is one of the most important things you can do to maintain an optimal level of human health. When you overaccumulate acid-forming elements in your body like protein, this drives your body further into dehydration. Now, the way that your body stores water is in a variety of different ways. Your body stores water inside your cells. So, for example, your body will store water along with glycogen inside your cells at a 3-to-1 ratio. So, for example, for every molecule of glycogen will be 3 molecules of water. This is the reason why when you consume carbohydrates, well, those carbohydrates break down into glucose. That glucose gets stored in your cells as glycogen, and that increases your overall weight. So when people think they're gaining weight from eating carbs, what you're really doing is hydrating your body. This is not body fat. This is body hydration. Now, aside from that, your body also stores water in your blood. One vital element to maintaining this is adequate amounts of potassium. Potassium is very important for regulating the balance of blood plasma, which is also very important. A lack of potassium will lead to all types of things like poor functioning of your nervous system, the massive dying off of your cells as a result of starvation of oxygen and dehydration. And then, of course, this makes it harder for your blood to actually move vital nutrients to your cells and extract toxins and waste products from your cells. So when you hydrate your blood, it makes it easier for the transportation of different elements in and out of your cells. This is extremely important. That dehydration essentially leads to a traffic jam in your blood, which massively disrupts the metabolic processes of all your cells. And then you have interstitial fluid. It's the fluid that is in the middle. It exists outside of your cells and outside of your bloodstream. When you consume high levels of protein, this amino acid accumulation gets stuck and leaked into your interstitial fluid. Now, your body doesn't store amino acids. So whatever isn't being used to build new cells has to be excreted from the body or converted to be used for something else. But this massive load of amino acids, this is a time-sensitive issue. So a lot of these excess amino acids will be funneled into your lymphatic system, right? So that interstitial fluid will spill out into your lymphatic system. Okay. And your lymph nodes will then process these elements. This is very important for the cleansing of your blood. Now, there's a certain amount of interstitial fluid that is maintained, but the more toxins you have built up, well, then that fluid has to increase in order to manage the load. The increase in interstitial fluid will lead to higher blood pressure and edema, and then ultimately ends up being neuropathy, numbness, tingling, burning sensation, and this type of thing, right? Now, your kidneys and your liver and all of this type of stuff has to respond to this load because this swelling has to come down. This is an inflammatory response as a result of the load. Then you have the overaccumulation of these amino acids in your bloodstream, which has to be processed by your kidneys. And then you have an overaccumulation of amino acids in your urine. Now, you might be dealing with this issue, and you know you're dealing with this issue by one of the key signs, which is foamy urine. So you use the bathroom, you pee into the toilet, and you notice it's yellow and cloudy and bubbly. It's like a white suds that's built up in your urine. That's a sign of excessive protein in your urine, right? And as that amino acid filters through your kidneys, this creates a certain level of kidney damage to the nephrons inside your kidneys. When you do a test for your kidney health, a couple of the things that are measured is blood urine nitrogen, BUN for short, right? Nitrogen is the end result of protein. So you get proteins, converts into amino acids, converts into nitrogen. Okay. And then there's creatinine. Now, creatinine is a byproduct of creatine. Now, when you consume protein, a portion of that protein converts into creatine. Creatine gets stored inside your muscle tissue. And during the metabolic processes of your lean tissue, that creatine then gets used and in a byproduct formed called creatinine. And that gets processed through your kidneys. So when you test your kidneys, one thing you don't want to see is a high BUN level and a high creatinine level, I should say. That's a sign that your creatine, your kidneys are dealing with some struggling here. And reducing that protein intake is one of the best things you can actually do for your kidney health. I always say nutrition is a zero-sum game, meaning more of one thing is necessarily less of another. So when you look at the ratio or the percentage of your diet that is made up by carbs, fats, and proteins, now, as you increase protein, you will decrease carbohydrate consumption and increase fat consumption. Now, if you have a really big overestimation of protein, this will lead to either more protein supplementation in the form of protein powders, like for example, whey protein, or the increase of animal product consumption, which means you will necessarily have more saturated fat in your diet as a result. Now that saturated fat and protein combine, and that added to by the deployment of calcium in order to neutralize the acid that forms from this, results in the increased risk of stone formation, gallstones, kidney stones, artery calcification, atherosclerotic plaque buildup. Now, that artery calcification or atherosclerotic plaque buildup is a result of damage to the vascular tissue. Now, remember what I told you about that interstitial fluid buildup. As that fluid builds up and excessively accumulates, this causes blood pressure to increase, and that pressure can yield that vascular damage that is then patched up by cholesterol. Now, high consumption of protein and fat results in an increase in lipoproteins or cholesterol. Now, your body's very intelligent, where your body will use that cholesterol to combat the oxidative stress and the damage to your vascular tissues. So when you see an increase in cholesterol, or LDL cholesterol specifically, that is an inflammatory response that the body engages in because your body needs more of this cholesterol to repair the damage. More damage means more cholesterol. All right. So if you want to decrease the cholesterol, right, the C-reactive protein, the LDL, the ApoB, well, then you would need to reduce the oxidative stress, the high blood pressure, right, the inflammation, the edema, the neuropathy. That would require a restructuring of your diet where you're not overestimating and overaccumulating this acidic protein in your diet. What that looks like is going to be an increase in more water-rich, carbohydrate-rich foods. And the reason why is because we want to look at what do we really need if we want to move toxins out of our body in order to reduce this oxidative stress and inflammation. Well, what do we need? We need more water. We need more magnesium. And we need more folate, for example. We need more water to undo the dehydration that is a result of increasing protein and fat and decreasing carbs. The less carbs you eat, the more susceptible to dehydration you become. As you increase fat and protein, this is going to cause a diuretic effect in the body. which will purge water. And your body will purge more water in an attempt to filter out toxins from your body. Because that interstitial fluid and that edema, all that swelling, it can't just stay like that. That has to move out of the body. So clearing out the excess acid results in a clearing out of the excess fluid buildup as a result. This done over a period of time leads to frequent urination and things like this, and dehydration ultimately, as well as a lack of glycogen or a severe decrease in glycogen, which can then thus make the neuropathy even worse. Brain fog, anxiety, depression, insulin resistance, poor sleep quality, low energy, fatigue, all of this type of stuff, right? Hormonal instability, high levels of cortisol. All of this results as a result of your body dealing with all of this oxidative stress and inflammation and high blood pressure, dehydration, and all this. So you increase your carbohydrates specifically from water-rich sources. This is how you get more potassium, more magnesium, and more folate. Folate is particularly important not just for the functionality of your nervous system, but also the reduction of homocysteine levels. Now, an excessive level of homocysteine is directly correlated with cardiovascular problems, heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, right? These kinds of issues. So when your homocysteine is increasingly and chronically elevated to an excessive degree as a result of all this increased protein and saturated fat intake, in order to lower those levels, you're going to need more of that folate. In order to improve your brain chemistry and your hormonal balance and to reduce the nerve pain and the edema, you need more folate. You need more potassium, you need more magnesium, you need more vitamin C, right? You also need to bring down the uric acid because the increased consumption of protein leads to higher levels of uric acid. Uric acid leads to gout formation, right? The crystallization of joints, joint inflammation. So you get arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, these types of things. And that's all a result of excessive protein and saturated fat. So if you want to drive these levels down, you need more of those whole food plant-based carbs. So your leafy greens and your fruits predominantly. Some whole grains, legumes, that kind of thing. Plant-based foods are very mineral rich, very fiber rich, and fiber is a regulatory mechanism. Fiber binds to excess metabolites and toxins in the body. It binds to them and helps to pull them out of the body through your digestive tract. That fiber ferments in your gut and serves as a food source for your beneficial gut bacteria. Your beneficial gut bacteria is at the core, it is a large part of your immune system. In fact, most of your immune system, the majority of your immune system, exists inside your gut via your beneficial gut bacteria. Now, even in your gut, as far as the bacteria in your gut, there are beneficial gut bacteria and harmful gut bacteria. Okay. Now, the more cellular degradation you have in your body and the more toxicity you have in your body, this leads to the increase in bad bacteria because bad bacteria exists to feed on and break down dead things. And so the more cellular die-off you have in your body and the more waste formation you have in your body from fecal matter and animal products and this type of thing, you get an increase in putrefaction of animal products and an increase in bad bacteria, which necessarily decreases good bacteria. Now, if that bad bacteria increases for long enough, you end up with an excessive amount of bacteria formulation in your upper gut and in your stomach. Now, this can lead to all types of nasty infections, right? This can lead to SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, right? Or just SIBO for short. You can get infections like H. pylori, which is a real pain to get rid of. And H. pylori and many other of these infections, they thrive in an acidic environment. So this can drive food cravings for acidic foods. And then the more acid accumulation you get, the less oxygenation of your cells is able to occur. So you get less blood oxygenation, and this leads to the asphyxiation of the cells in your body. And so you get more oxidative stress and cellular die-off of your vital organ tissues, muscle, intestinal lining, etc. So you get more inflammation as a result. And then from this, you end up with things like acid reflux, GERD symptoms, increased gout. So you see how all of this goes off the rail from an excess level of protein and saturated fat accumulation in the diet. And this is why you need a more carb-dominant diet to alkalize your body. So let's say you get more watermelon in your diet, you get more grapes, you get more cantaloupe, cucumber, you get citrus fruits like grapefruit, tangerines in your diet, you get more pineapple in your diet, right, with digestive enzymes like bromelain, for example, right? You get more berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, right, all these types of things. And these water-rich, fiber-rich, vitamin C-rich, B vitamin-rich foods, all of this helps to reverse all of the issues I've just been talking about. Now, let's say over an extended period of time, 8 weeks, 12 weeks or so, you had a diet with a dominant force in your diet coming from fruit, water-rich fruits. I mentioned that watermelon. Watermelon is very rich in amino acid called citrulline. Citrulline is a precursor to arginine, which is then used to synthesize higher levels of nitric oxide in your body. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So you get more blood flow as a result of your vascular system expanding and dilating. This facilitates more hydration, adequate levels of blood plasma, and adequate levels of oxygen saturation of your blood. This also helps to rehydrate your lungs. Now, if you have asthma, this is the thing that you want to know about, because that reversing of dehydration and increasing oxygen saturation is vital to reversing that condition. So now you get more oxygenation, and there's a lot of benefits to that. But if you get more oxygenation of your cells, this alkalizes your body and reduces the acid buildup. This is key to getting rid of those pesky infections, bacterial infections. More oxygenation and more alkalization of your body kills off bad bacteria and helps to feed your good gut bacteria, especially when you add that additional prebiotic fiber to your gut to feed your good gut bacteria. This is where the acid reflux starts to go down. This is where the gout starts to get reversed. This is where you're able to breathe more. You'll no longer need an inhaler or an oxygen tank and these kinds of things. All of these issues get reversed. You get better sleep quality. You get higher levels of serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone that is mostly produced in your gut and then is ultimately synthesized in your brain. And then serotonin then converts into melatonin and is released in the brain in bed at night when you're exposed to darkness. And this allows you to get into a deep sleep and good quality, restful sleep. And that restful sleep helps to rebalance your hormones. All of this while improving cardiovascular health, which reduces your risk of heart disease and stroke and prevents neurodegenerative diseases in the brain, balances out your thyroid and establishes the correct rhythm by having the adequate amounts of magnesium, potassium, and B vitamins, and hydration for adequate pituitary and thyroid and liver correspondence, right? The congestion of your liver as a result of overconsumption of protein and saturated fat disrupts your thyroid. Because what happens is your pituitary gland releases thyroid stimulating hormone that signals to your thyroid gland to release more T4, right? Your thyroid hormone. And then a large portion of your T4 gets converted into T3, which is an active thyroid hormone, right? And that is used to power your body and engage in the metabolism of glucose and fats for energy. Now, if your liver is congested, that conversion process is largely inhibited. And it's inhibited by the excessive binding of thyroxine, right? That thyroid hormone. So what happens is you get these really high levels of cortisol, and basically cortisol is a stress hormone or a hormone that is released to combat stress. So high levels of cortisol leads to an increase in estrogen, because estrogen is meant to be a counterbalance of cortisol. Not really meant to be, but is one of the functions that it does. So estrogen comes up, gradually lowers cortisol, but one of the negative effects is estrogen is then used to bind thyroxine. And so what happens in the liver, your liver produces more thyroxine binding globulin, right? In a blood test, that would be TBG, right? Thyroxine binding globulin. So you get excessive levels of TSH and T4 and low T3 as a result. There's a disruption of the balance between your pituitary gland, your thyroid, and your liver, right? So I'm going through all of the biological and hormonal issues that go on in your body to create these chronic illnesses as a result of this excess of protein and fat consumption. So what does this look like in terms of the math? What does this look like? Well, on average, you really only need your macros to be around 10 to 16% coming from protein. All right, so as far as your macros are concerned, the overwhelming majority of it is going to be carbohydrates, where your carbs are roughly going to be 50 to 65% of your macros. And then as far as fat is concerned, your fat is going to be anywhere from 10 to 25% of your macros. If you're fully raw, it may be a little bit higher depending on the dietary strategy, but I'm just talking about your averages here, right? In terms of how you calculate your macros, generally speaking, you would have a threshold where your carbohydrates would be anywhere from 4 to 6 grams of carbs per kilogram of lean mass. Protein would be 1 gram of protein per kilogram of lean mass. It can even be a bit lower than that depending on the circumstances and how raw your diet is. And then fats can be anywhere from a half a gram to a full gram of fat per kilogram of lean mass. That would be the general math behind how your macros would look like. So I just went through a lot of complex stuff here, right? You may need to watch this video more than once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, and take some notes. But you can book a call with me and speak to me directly about your issues and struggles that you may be facing. You hit the link in the description of this video. You can book a call with me, or join my 12-week mentorship, or get a custom diet plan made.